and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Mike Elder, and this podcast is called Box Angeles. It's a very confusing name, and I should rebrand the show, but I haven't. If you're a new listener, I'm so glad you found it, and if you're an old listener, welcome back. To all of you, though, go subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's an encyclopedic history of all things me, and a lot of people that have done a lot more than me and have really good words of advice, so go subscribe over there. Alrighty, we've got a really good episode this week. I sat down with Frank Caeti. He's an actor you would recognize from Mad TV. He did a couple seasons of that. He was on Key and Peele, Modern Family. He's a really funny guy. He came up through Chicago, did the whole improv scene, Second City and all that. But this conversation, honestly, wasn't about any of that. It was about where he's at in his career, how he looks on his career. It honestly was not at all what I was expecting to talk about, but it ended up being sort of a therapeutic session, I think, for us both, reflecting on the good, the bad, and the unknown. You know, it was a deep conversation. We laughed despite all of that because that's who we are. We're two Midwest boys who love and think and dream and, you know, suffer just like everybody else, the starving artists from the Midwest. Anyways, this was a really good conversation. So I'm really excited to share this with you, and I don't want to waste any more time. So without further ado, I give you...
Hello, my name is Frank Caeti.
Hi, Frank.
Hello.
I'm so happy to talk to you.
I'm happy to talk to you.
I love how happy you are to talk to me. You seem really enjoyed to be talking to me.
I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy talking to you.
Well, I appreciate that. We met on a Fox NFL Sunday sketch shoot.
Brag.
We love Jason Palmer.
Brag.
Who casts us in that without having to do anything other than just say he's great.
He's wonderful. Thank you, Jason.
But you had mentioned when I met you that you listen or you like see the clips of this on social media.
Yeah, a lot.
I love that.
And I actually learned, though.
What'd you learn?
Stuff.
Oh, from the clips.
Like stuff from Jeff Greenberg. Like when you're talking to folks, the insight that you get from them and your insightful questions is helpful to me.
I love that.
I mean, it's also fun to hear people's stories and stuff, but like genuinely interested. That's because for me, I feel like casting directors are a little bit of a mystery. So having an insight into that was really helpful.
Yeah. I think that is why I do this at this point. Like, sure. I love like selfishly getting to sit down with casting directors for an hour.
It's brilliant. But for you personally, but I think also for any folks that are exposed to the material and content, I think it's helpful. Yeah, I agree. Like it really is to like hear they're on our side and everything. What did you get out of that Jeff episode, if I may ask? Put you on the spot. I mean, I think he was talking specifically about some of the casting, some of the behind the scenes of like who was in position, and who wasn't, and who they brought in, and so also Jeff Greenberg has always been very kind to me. But he's a little intimidating. And he's specific. But like he has brought me in on some really cool projects. Yeah. Modern Family. Yeah.
Which you booked, obviously.
I did book it. But I had originally auditioned and went to producers for Cam, the role that Eric Stonestreet.
Oh, crazy. How far did you make in that? You went to producers, so pretty far.
Far enough to hear them love Eric Stonestreet's audition.
Wait, did they tell you that while you were there?
No, I was there.
Wait, tell me the story.
It was like one of those like from the room, and you're like, oh my god, he's crushing.
As you were sitting there and before
like
you
one
went
of those
in.
When they're walking, they're like, okay, thanks guys, okay everybody, thank you so much, everybody. You know, and like
Frank, so did you even get an audition?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I went in, but they didn't like book him in the room. There was a test and all that. Yeah. But like he was there. I can't remember who else, but I remember seeing him there. And just hearing him crush, you know, I thought I did fine. Whatever. I think at some point, if my memory serves me, Mitchell is the one. Is it Mitchell and Cameron? Yeah. I auditioned for the other one first.
Oh, interesting.
But like then it was but like I don't know when Jesse Tyler Ferguson, because I think he was one of the first people attached.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget what he said.
But yeah, so I auditioned for that. And then I think I went in for Modern Family at least a couple times and booked once.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Because I feel like what I remember from the Jeff Greenberg interview was, Eric Stonestreet they had to like really work to get him in.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think from hearing Eric Stone Street's account of it, he was like in and then out and then in again.
Yeah,
but he was hilarious and amazing.
How many? Okay, now this is interesting. How many big of the shows like that have you auditioned for with like a lead? Main, is that rare?
No,
or is that?
Well, there was a time. I don't do that at all now.
Okay,
but there was a time. I'm trying to think of roles that I went to producers for Ron Swanson.
Oh, sure, on Parks and Rec.
Yeah. And it was early on, like everything was very up in the air. Like it was still untitled Amy Poehler project. And I came in a couple times for them. Joel McHale was there one of the times I was there. And like Ron Swanson.
Was that Allison Jones?
If memory serves me, I think so. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Allison Jones for a long time had so many, and still does, amazing audition opportunities.
Yeah.
I also auditioned for Allison for The Office, Michael Scott.
Oh, wow.
But I was like way too young. It was weird. Yeah. At that point, I was like, and I was still in Chicago at the time. But Allison used to come to Chicago and see Second City shows. From what I gather, I think unannounced. Like nobody was like, Allison Jones is here. Like she wasn't getting. She would just come and scout talent, which was cool.
Yeah, she's like a good food critic. She doesn't want to tell them
that the food critic's here.
Yeah, because then they'll be on their best behavior.
Make it really good. This one make good.
Yeah, do your good improv here.
At Second City, we'd be like, "Is there a casting director in the house? We'll do it good, guys." Yeah. Like the other times, it's a top 30% effort. Yeah. Like let's bump it up to 60.
That's funny. Wow, so some big ones. What about Mike and Molly? Did you audition for Mike and Molly?
Yes.
Of course, yeah. You seem like the Lance Barber type.
I didn't go for... I know Lance Barber.
Yeah.
He's one of the best. He was on your show.
Yeah, he did.
He's one of the best of the best. I auditioned not for Mike, for...
Molly?
Yes. Which... I mean, it was me and Melissa McCarthy. I feel like it was tight. No, his friend, I think his name was Carl.
Okay.
Who was like a fellow cop. Because I was like, this could be fun. Because it was obviously from the script, it was going to be a big dude. And I'm like, I'm a big dude, but I'm not a big dude.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, oh, it's like a Barney Rubble, Fred Flintstone kind of thing. And I'm like, I got strong Barney Rubble energy. That's exactly who I want to be. I don't want to be Fred. I want to be Barney. Yeah. And I went a couple times in for that. Ralphie May was there. Melissa McCarthy was there one of the times. And I was like, this is going to be Melissa McCarthy. Like seeing like, this is obviously going to be her.
She's so good. Yeah. So when you've auditioned for such big things, does like, this is a bad question, but does it get easier when you don't get it more often, or does it get harder?
At the time when you're auditioning, you don't know what it's going to become.
True. That's good.
You obviously know that there's some great people involved. Like you're like, oh gosh, these folks are making it. Like Amy Poehler's making this show. This is going to be fantastic. Right. So, you have an idea, but you don't know. And like, I think there's an element of not knowing what it's going to be. And it's hard not to, right? Don't cash those checks before those checks have been mailed to you. It's hard not to sort of dream and envision like, wow, this is a life altering opportunity. It's not just a career altering, it's a life altering. Now, so many million things have to go right. So it's a pilot, then it has to go to series, and then the series has to do well, and then the series has to get picked up, and all of these things have to happen that are so beyond the actor's control. So you can't get too far ahead of yourself, but I would be lying to say like, I'm not dreaming like, wow, this would be cool. How fun would that be? But it also, pilots are hard because you don't know what the show is. So there's the guessing element of what they're really looking for. What's the real tone of the show? Some of the time you're not even getting a full script. So you don't know exactly what it is, but then you see the people who are doing it, and you're like, yeah, that was an excellent choice. They made an excellent choice.
Yeah.
also, I remember distinctly from Modern Family, my brother is gay. So I remember distinctly from Modern Family I probably undershot, even though Cam is the more flamboyant of the two. I probably undershot. I did, because as a straight man, I did not want to overshoot the flamboyance or gayness of this character. So I was probably off the mark a little bit on what they were looking for tonally in that character. Like I probably could have. I would rather overshoot than undershoot.
Right, yeah.
And I probably undershot.
Yeah. Because they always say overshoot because then they can reel you in.
Pull you back.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting. But I appreciate the deference for the community because you don't want to like stereotype it. Like,
no.
Yeah.
Though my brother has a level of flamboyance. You know what I mean? You know, like.
Of course he does. He's related to you. You have a level of flamboyance.
I appreciate it. But I think, yeah, I mean, trying to honor that and having many friends and knowing whatever, you know, but like, yeah, I probably understand.
Well, it seems like a great perspective you have, and it is hard. I mean, this is pales in comparison, but I had a Jake from State Farm ad this week. I would have been in with Jake from. I'm not Jake. I wouldn't be Jake. They're not going to.
You're going to replace.
They're
Jake?
replacing the black Jake with a white straight guy.
That's the direction this country's. Oh my God. Here we go.
It turns out I like what Trump's doing.
Oh wow! Wow!
I take that back.
That was 10 minutes.
That was humor.
10 minutes to get to the.
No, but like I was like, this would be fucking huge, and then I was like, well, sexy indifference. I don't need this. I don't want this. You know what I mean? And just trying to posture in the waiting room, psyching myself up. But you mentioned you don't get those auditions anymore. What do you think? What's changed? Did you age out of a certain lead world? You think, or what?
I don't know. I mean, I can theorize. I don't exactly know. The industry is different, and just the opportunities are different. I don't have management and haven't for several years. And so I think I had really excellent management that were probably instrumental in me getting a lot of those opportunities. I, had whatever, there's an echelon to your agencies and all of that you're, that folks are going to get exposed to. So I may have had a higher tier agent at the time. So I had some help, and I was going in consistently for some of those folks, Falco Miller and Allison Jones and Dorian Frankel. And, so seeing those consistently. So I was probably more at the top of mind to bring in for some of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very rare now, very rare that I have a series regular audition.
How do you think that makes me feel, though, to hear that you haven't had management for years? Like, what are we supposed to do that don't have the accolades? Well, I don't know if you have accolades. Do you have accolades? You have some accolades. You have credits, I'm saying.
I refer to them as accolades, though.
Yes, good. As you should.
Have you seen my IMDb accolades?
Exactly. That's what I meant, though.
Have you seen them?
But you know what I mean?
Superlatives. Have you seen my IMDb superlatives?
He's a multi-hyphenate.
Thank you.
But do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's so sort of depressing to somebody like me who's...
It's depressing to me, too.
It's fair. How do you not have a manager, I guess, is my point.
I don't know. I mean, I think the thing that I'm probably worst at is the business.
Yeah.
And I'm unfortunately Midwestern.
I was just going to make that reference.
In the Midwest, you let your work speak for itself. You do your work and you hope that somebody notices. And I think this is across all industry, right? Do your work. Don't puff up. That's not how we are. Let your work speak for itself. I think in Los Angeles, and it makes sense. this is not downing. In this industry in particular, you have to be good at it, but you also have to be good at telling people that you're good at it.
I know. Yeah.
And so I have done two things that have been reactive in my career, which is waiting for institutional support to gatekeep and let me move up. And then also reactive, or at least a little soft in regard to how I approach the business element of it. So I've never gotten good at that. And I could certainly put more effort into that. So I will own my accountability in that. I would love to have a manager. And I had a great manager for 15 years who I had a wonderful relationship with, and it was time to move on when it was time to move on. And then I had another manager for about a year and a half, and it never felt right. And I moved on, and I just haven't gotten another one.
Yeah.
But that's on me too.
I mean,
no one's going to be like, "Hey, how you doing? You looking for a manager?" You know. Indeed, I am.
Coincidence. No, that is such a healthy, incredible way to look at it, because so many actors would not take culpability for their lack of go-get and effort, and there's so much to that. But I appreciate too the Midwest, and I'm also from Minnesota. Yeah. And I just had Maya Drabi on. She works for Allison Horncasting.
Yeah.
And I was telling her it keeps coming up that I see people say they got cast from something because they did a unique self-tape, or they went out and sort of filmed it rather than do the self-tape. And that drives me insane, because I'm like, there are rules and parameters. We all have to have a backdrop like that. We have a square. We need to sell it in that. And if we're saying we got to put production value and different sets and things in our auditions, I'm like, that makes it so unfair. Mm-hmm. Some people have time. Some people have nice houses, things that make that available to them. And I'm like, I don't have any of that. So I like to play inside color inside the lines and do it the old, quote unquote, the old fashioned way, showing the work. So I hear you. And that's something that's frustrating.
I agree. I think that it also Midwestern, maybe, and it's just a type, and it's not Midwestern. It's not like everybody else is lawless.
Right.
But there's a compliance.
Yes.
How do you, Midwest nice, right? How do you want me to do it? That's how I will do it. And so in that idea of not puffing up, not drawing too much attention to yourself, which I think is ingrained culturally. Also, then you see the folks that do make, and it's right to a certain extent. It's you got to take risks, but then how big of a swing do you want to take? It's well, you heard they showed up at the company and then gave them their script and they read it and then they bought it. But don't ever do that. But in this case, it worked. But don't ever do that.
Yeah, I know.
You hear about
it's so maddening.
Barry Keoghan, who made a video to be, I think it was the Riddler, but that's how it transferred to him becoming the Joker, right? Now he was doing his thing, and there's a certain element of that. So I think that the note that I take from that is proactivity.
Yes.
So 2024 for me was about being proactive, not necessarily business or industry wise, but artistically, and taking steps to move towards a future and things that I want to do. So those sort of, when people take a big swing and it works, I love that, I guess. But I'm also maybe that's not me, or it's everything that they tell you not to do. So there's a lot of mixed messages.
It's brutal.
There's a ton of mixed messages. But I do think, if you feel good about it and you want to take a risk and you're okay with sending that thing off or doing that thing in the moment, then go for it, right? If it feels good to you, I would say the integrity of the artist is up to the artist. So if you feel good about it, don't do it because you think you should, or it's wildly weird choice to make a weird choice. But if you're I believe in this and I believe in making this choice. And if they're that's a bad thing and we never are going to call you again, at least you go, well, I made that choice and I'll live with it.
Agreed. But also they're never going to do that unless you're disrespectful. They're not going to be oh, he went for a swing and filmed the scene rather than filmed an audition. You know what I mean? And that was something I regret. I don't regret, but I'm you mentioned Dorian Frankel. I interviewed her very early on the podcast, and then I never emailed her again. And I was I should have checked in with her. It's just small proactive things like that. That's what I love about. So now I'll if I book something, I'll reach out to the casting directors I know and be hey, look at this. I just booked this. Why not? Yeah. What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
It helps. And maybe they like seeing fun stuff. And they like,
probably
they
not,
like to see, I don't know. I
Not
mean,
my fun stuff.
not yours. I mean, you probably don't want to see this. But here's
But Frank told me I got to send it to you.
you got to make choices.
So what did you
Show up at the house.
What did you do proactively in 2024? Tell me some of your stuff that I love this.
Okay. I started graduate school. I am pursuing an MFA in writing for television and film from Emerson College in Boston.
Emerson's big alumni helpers.
This is how dumb I am, though.
Oh.
I didn't even consider that when
That's
I
funny.
said I was going to go there. That's how naive. That's how terrible I am at this business.
No,
a
but
friend of mine's like, oh, Emerson's got a big alumni network. And I'm like, they do? No idea.
Because they have the branch on Hollywood, right?
They do.
Yeah. I interviewed a couple people that said that they went to Emerson, and then out here, there's so many like heavy hitters.
And the
that went there.
Emersonians really look out for each other.
Didn't know
Not
that.
even part of my criteria. That's how bad I am at this business. I should be selling aluminum siding in Chicago and watching Bears games and being like, that's pretty good at aluminum siding. I'm letting my work speak for itself. You know, like that's what I should be doing. I have no place here. This is not for me.
I should be your manager.
It's killing me.
That's funny.
Let me be your manager.
Yeah. Anyways.
So this is a little bit spurred by two different things. I've been teaching a little bit. I teach at California Institute of the Arts as an adjunct professor, and then I teach at El Camino College, and I've taught for Second City and a bunch of other places, West Side Comedy Theater, Improv LA. Shout them out because they're wonderful.
Yeah.
And having an MFA makes me a more attractive professor candidate to have a terminal degree. So it was spurred on by that, but also it's an area that I've never studied formally, writing. So I was vacillating between theater school and film school and ended up going to film school. Emerson has a great low residency program where I have to be in Boston for a couple weeks a year and then in LA for residency. But for the most part, it's asynchronous and I can do it from anywhere. So I'm doing that. I had never done a solo show before. So I wrote a solo show called Frankly My Frank, I Don't Give a Frank, a heartwarming solo show of staggering indulgence. And I did that a few times and I've toured it a little bit. I don't know what I'll do with it, but it was a good endeavor. It scared me. I've never done any solo performance longer than like a showcase of 6 or 7 minutes. And then I did a stage adaptation of the film Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And we did it in San Diego and here in LA at UCB. And we sold out all of the shows but one. And I'm talking to theaters to try to do that elsewhere. So those 3 efforts of proactivity to do things that I wanted to do that were creatively fulfilling. The producing part of it was the hardest part.
Oh, yeah.
The artistic part of it was amazing. Still a lot of work, but amazing. And so with those 3 things, I felt like I'm going to be proactive.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say 2024 was an effort or an exercise in proactivity.
I think that's great because essentially it's making content and taking control of what you're doing rather than waiting for the phone to ring. It's proactive. I'm an idiot. But yes, that's really great.
Well, and also, I don't know if it amounts to anything
Well, there's got to
in
be
the
some
industry,
zeitgeisty.
but I think I love performing. And like in many ways, live performance is what I always think about I would do. Like I love the lifestyle that television can afford you and like the tangibility of a piece of work that is on television or film. But I would always parlay that to try to get to live performance too. I've always thought of it as how can I get back on stage using these, this notoriety, this money, this flexibility to get back to stage.
Yeah, I love that. That's interesting. Would you ever own your own theater?
I've thought about it, but it sounds like a real pain in the butt. And the people that I've talked to that are artistic are like, don't do this. But I'm always like, you're living the dream,
But you realize that the aluminum siding version of you probably owns his own aluminum siding business.
Oh, yeah.
So you could do it, I think. I think you could own your own theater.
Caeti siding and aluminum. We'll also plow your driveway.
Yeah.
In the winter, it's tough to do siding in Chicago.
I don't want to tell you what to do, but I did a Robert Diavanzo class last year. Do you know him?
No.
He's a popular. He was popular for coaching Jenna Fisher. She wrote about him in his book. But
never heard of her.
And that's funny. But
she's fantastic.
Yeah. I did his like audition class, and one of the things he taught me that really stuck with me was the idea of like looking for reps. Don't feel like you have to email thousands of reps. Just do 3 to 5 a week or whatever. Like do it in small batches so it feels like A, manageable, but B, that you're not getting rejected by 1,000. You're just maybe not hearing back from 3 to 5. And it's much more, there's like a psychological aspect to that. So I would encourage you maybe in 2025, reach out to 3 managers a week or something like that.
I like that.
Okay. Report
now
back.
I got to figure out. No, I mean, I would have to do the work to get like the queries and like get that information. I should do that because it takes no time and it is an effort.
It takes a little bit of time.
But not like it's not a Herculean effort. Why not?
What I've done is I look up people like you or funny people I admire and see who their manager is, and then I just reach out and say, I love your roster. It doesn't work for me,
but that's good.
I had a manager, but they just switched to an agency, so I'm managerless as of like a month ago. But
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean,
it's gonna happen.
I don't think at my stage I need a manager. I just need somebody submitting me to TV shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they're still doing that.
That's another thing. I maybe in the back of my mind I was like, do I need a manager right now? Maybe I didn't, or at least I, sort of determined that I didn't in some way.
Are you going out a lot commercially?
No,
not at all.
No, I am, but not a lot. I don't. Yeah, not really. I would try to think. I don't want to ballpark. Less than 10 times a year.
Okay, hit up my agent. Let's get you out.
I like my agents.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know I don't know. I mean, again, I'm reactive. I'm probably could be more proactive.
Yeah.
Also, being who I am and being chubby takes me away from certain auditions. Like
we're the same type though. You would put us in the same type, right? Really?
I don't know.
Maybe that's how I see myself.
Maybe that's the difference.
You see me this way.
You're Statham.
No, you're crazy.
I'm DeVito.
You're crazy.
You're not DeVito.
You're crazy.
I'm DeVito. I had a woman once after show think that this was a wonderful compliment when I was like 27 years old. Say, do you know who you remind me of? Danny DeVito. And I was like, thank you.
People need to stop talking. People need to stop talking about other people.
Generally, when someone says, do you know who you remind me of? It's not going to be good afterwards. Yeah. Not for a
God, that's funny. I think of us as the same type.
In the broad strokes, sure. I once was at Ocean Park auditioning for something where I was playing a caveman. And like, you know how you see like the same people at auditions if you're going out a lot? And I was like, I don't see these people. And then everyone was like, sort of, and I'm like, I guess I'm partially in this category. Like it was like a couple guys. Like, they're basically like like
feral
the Neanderthal variant. They have more than most. I'm like, I guess I'm in this category a little bit. And so then,
wait. Speaking of, do you know Carl Tart?
Yeah, of course.
I talked to Carl.
Him.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I talked to him about this on the podcast. Something that I struggle with is being intimidating because I'm bigger and broader chested. Do you run into that too? Like I often, like I took a class where the first thing we did was audition for the lady. They gave us sides and she's like the teacher, the lady teacher. And she was like, Mike, you're intimidating. You're too much. You got to pull it back. And I was like, what? Me? I'm just a big lovable bear.
What?
But do you run into that too, where like we're just like a smiley, goofy guy, but if people, their first impression might be a little more scary of you? Or is that just me and Carl? Carl said he gets that too.
Well, Carl is a tall black man.
Yes.
Which is going to come with some sort of baggage that has nothing to do with him.
Agreed.
Because he's about one of the sweetest people on the planet.
1000%.
Yeah, I think people's determination of who you are is sort of a lot in this business. And it also is, what are you portraying, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that energy that you sort of exude might be part of that. But yeah, I don't envision you that way. But yes, physical size is going to give some element of connotation of how you are or an expectation. Like for a long time, I did a duo with my friend Matt Craig, who is a tall, handsome man. And people would assume in our duo that he was always like the voice of reason or the straight man to my thing. And really in our content, it was almost 50-50 that I was straight manning his goofy and he was like, but just by the way we looked, there was an assumption. He's like nearly a foot taller than me.
Yeah.
Like, that I was the character. So like, that's on them. But yeah, I can hear you. And like, you should be aware of that. So like, the lady, I'm assuming she's like a very fancy British woman. The lady, hello, welcome to the lady workshops. Everyone, please get your quills, right? The backstory of your character. Is
that how you audition for Modern Family?
Yeah. I was like, is Cameron fancy British lad? Hello, Frank Caeti.
I think part of it though was a drama scene. So I was like a lawyer or something like that. And I was like, what are we doing here? I don't know.
I mean, the note is the note. I mean, she saw what she saw.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
I saw something, not knowing this about you. I saw on your website earlier today. You used to have like a big beard.
Yeah.
How often do you play with that? Because I've thought about that too. Like if I play with my facial hair, I wonder if I could exude more of that scary guy.
I thought it would change my category a little bit.
Yeah,
it was also
I think it did.
COVID, so I had long hair. I looked like I was held in a Victorian England prison for some time.
Yeah.
It was more initially. It started as I just couldn't get a haircut, and then I just kept growing it, and I wasn't seeing anybody, and I was like, this will be an experiment.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point. I was like, I wonder if this would change things. So I grew a beard. My hair was long. And it really did nothing. The things I was still auditioning for fat nerds.
Really? I think you look so different with a beard.
I thought it would be dope. And I did audition for Our Flag Means Death.
Okay.
Which, have you seen that show? It's a Taika Waititi show on HBO.
Okay.
Pirates. And I was like, fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that they cut the role. But that would have been a series regular, like one of the gang.
Oh, so you're still sort of
But that was like 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago?
I don't know.
That was a fun one. And I was like, this is perfect. But almost everything else, I was sort of like slicking my hair and hiding my ponytail.
Yeah.
And being like, I will shave. Frank Caeti will shave.
That's something I don't play with enough, I feel like. But I to your point about being on top of the business, then I would have to get multiple different headshots if I like win a mustache.
Oh, I'm terrible at
clean
that.
shaven and all that, yeah.
Terrible at that.
Well, you had beard pics on your website.
I have beard pics, yeah.
When you look back on your career at this point, I think you're like 10 years older than me. Are you like, what do you feel? Do you feel like you've done it, or do you feel like you have more to get? I'm just curious, like, because let me preface this a little bit more. From where I'm sitting, I've been in LA 13 years. My TV credits include Fox NFL Sunday, one line.
That's cool.
A Kimmel bit that got cut, and that's it. And I've been here for 13 years or whatever. So from where I'm standing, you are a fucking superstar. Do you feel that way? Or do you feel like, well, how do you reflect on that? I'm just curious if you do at all.
This is a very good question that I think will lead me to an existential crisis.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, it's good because I think it's good for us to check in, right? I think that I wrestle with the idea if I am a has-been or a never was. And I also feel like as an artist, I am as good at it as I have ever been. And so I know I have more to offer, but I also have to look at my life and the sort of where I've been and where I'm going with a level of realism that says I'm 51 years old. I have crippling credit card debt and 2 children. What am I going to do? Right? So it's a difficult thing because, and I jokingly say existential crisis, but it is a little existential because it's like, if you ask yourself, what was I made for? I know I was made to perform. I know I was made to create and be artistic. But if that's unsustainable as a person with a family that is responsible for others and for a sense of just stability in life, you have to take a step back and go, what am I doing? Right? So I don't know. Hence the effort of proactivity, hence the trying my best. And in my solo show, I talk about some of my success, because I will say, and I appreciate your kind words, I have done gigs that people dream about. I'm extremely fortunate. So I recognize that. And if it ended, I'd be like, damn, I got to do some cool stuff. And I look at my body of work and feel very proud of it for the most part. Very proud. But I want to do more.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough early in my career, like in my mid-20s, to have some commercial success and then some theatrical success in Chicago, where I made a living as an actor pretty young. So I didn't have a fallback. And so the adage of like, if you love something 100%, you got to jump in and do it. But there's no, if you this, then this, then this, then this in our business. And so I say in my solo show, at what point does persistence become insanity? And I think that is a relevant thing to anybody who's an artist. So, I'm sort of looking at like, well, where do I derive my happiness and what can I do? And the things that I'm currently doing industry-wise, I could do in a lot of places. So do I have to live here? And so, but I want to. I'm stubborn too. So like making and writing for myself and doing stuff. So like all of those things I feel extremely thankful, and I have an immense amount of gratitude, and I've done some cool ass stuff, but I don't know the answer, And so I weigh those sorts of things. And if an opportunity came, like, do you know the what's it called? The film, The Sound of Metal. Is that what it's called? Riz Ahmed did it a couple years ago. Maybe
it sounds familiar, but I don't know.
It's about the drummer who's losing his hearing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's an excellent film. And at the time during the pandemic, I was in a movie club, and all of us are people here in LA.
Sounds super cool.
Oh my God, it was so cool. It was just a bunch of dudes on Zoom trying to make it through the pandemic. But it was fun. Yeah. And it started as watching the AFI Top 100 comedies, and then it started branching out. Anyways, I think that's something that film raises a lot of things, but one of the things it raised for me is like, what if your gift was taken away from you? Or what if you had to make a choice to leave your gift? And so I remember at the time saying like, hey, if somebody offered me a job and they say, you're going to get paid $80,000 a year, but you can never act again, would you take it?
No.
I might.
$80,000?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, in LA, that's nothing. But
wait. Interesting. What's your number?
Well, I mean, that seems like a lot to me. Because if somebody says you show up and you do this,
aluminum
and
siding,
this is what you paid,
yeah,
every 2 weeks, and I do a couple improv shows that so like, but I'd be like,
oh, you're saying you could still perform, just not act.
Well, that would be the life, right? Now, if somebody said, here's the money and you never do it again, it'd be tough. But I would consider it. I wouldn't be an immediate no. I'd be like, let me look at this.
That's fascinating.
$80,000 is not that much money.
It's not
a year.
That's
not for the whole time, but $80,000 a year. This is your job. This is what you do.
First off, I don't want to glaze over what you just said, because that was very eloquent and very from the heart, and I appreciate that. And I didn't expect to elicit that much response, so I appreciate the thought you put behind that. But the idea of a number is very fascinating to me, because I've always my fantasy is just leaving LA and just like traveling and not coming back. And I've told my therapist, like, if you gave me $5 million, you'd never see me again. I would just leave and never be back.
Andy Dufresne.
But that's kind of where I'm at, is like $5 million. So to hear you say $80K, it's so funny to me, because that's such a different
$16. I'd live in Riverside.
But there is something to the idea that you've done so much already. So you can be satisfied with the body of work. You've put out a body of work that I haven't even I've barely put a toe out there.
That's also the thing that I think is hard, is like comparison, right?
Oh yeah, it's impossible.
Comparison is very difficult. Los Angeles makes you focus on what you don't have as opposed to what you do have.
Yeah, you compare up.
And everybody wants more.
You never compare backwards.
Yeah, and so it's hard. It can be very hard, and that's a tough sort of, I think dissatisfaction for an artist is a good thing as long as it doesn't ruin you. Dissatisfaction drives the artist.
Yeah.
It can always be better. So I try to put the thing of like, it always could be better and always could be worse, and look forward to the next time I get to do it. Right. So I don't think anybody puts their artistic measure with love in my heart because I've probably done 35 commercials in my life, if not more. Nobody's like, that is my artistic outlet. I do commercials, right? But you can make a lot of money. And so that a few days on set a year could turn into your whole salary for the year. That's pretty cool. And you can pursue other things that you want to do artistically. So I think that there's measuring yourself to others and finding your own place inside of it is a question that I think everybody struggles with. And so I would never say this is what you should or have to do. And I could see why people leave. And I envy some people that there was somebody I knew that came from Chicago and was in LA for 4 months. I was like, this is not for me. And they left. And I was like, damn, that definitive sort of understanding I'm envious of. I've been here for 18 years. So like, and I think, I don't know. It's just really hard for folks. And if you feel like you want to do it, then you should keep doing it. Right. And if it makes you happy, but you know that there's an element of sacrifice to this work. And so that's what sort of keeps me going in some way, shape, or form to try to keep, I don't know. But if you measured it statistically, it would be like, it's like when you watch an athlete and you're like, they should retire. You know, they don't have it anymore.
But that's way different.
It is way different. And I don't think retirement in acting is different, but I'm also like, am I going to be like 73 years old driving to Santa Monica for a commercial audition?
I see,
and being like, I hope I get this.
See, where my head goes though is I'm 73 and my age group type is like the same 10 guys, and I'm the old guy on every sitcom because I'm one of 10 guys left that's 70s white. You know what I mean?
Outlast.
Right. That's where my
outplay, outwit, outlast. There's an element to that too. I'm like, my category might be getting smaller.
Well, it is. It has to be. The biggest categories from what I've gleaned from casting directors is 20s, and then it slowly gets smaller as you get bigger. So there's got to be some element to that outlast, survive.
Fair.
Are you familiar with this couch is so squeaky, by the way, and I'm trying not to move my butt, but
oh, I'm sorry.
Why are you sorry? No, my side is squeaky.
Oh yeah, it is.
Anyways, I just did that. Are you familiar with the Manhattan Towers? This is a random sidebar.
Manhattan Towers?
I think it's called Manhattan Towers. So
no,
I was watching Graham Norton and Timothy Chalamet.
Is it Chalamet?
No, I don't know. I think it's Timothée Chalamet. And Coleman Domingo bonded over both living in, I think it's called Manhattan Towers. I was like, what? And they were like, oh, yeah, we get each other now. We get each other. And I looked it up. Turns out it is literally subsidized housing for artists. And there's
New York, obviously?
Yeah. And there's a documentary about it that I watched because I was so fascinated. And so many big hitters, like Alicia Keys grew up there. Larry David lived there when he wrote Seinfeld pilot in there. But the idea is like they had Hell's Kitchen and it was like a bad neighborhood. And then they had Broadway right there. And they're like, well, why don't we like pump up the neighborhood by making sure artists can survive? So essentially it's Section 8 or 9 housing or whatever, but it's specifically 90% for artists.
Wow.
And they were making the case that communities need artists and they shouldn't have to be so stressed out about credit card debt and paying rent and everything. And we should nurture that because a community should value artists. And I was like, this is crazy to me. Why do we not have more of this across the world? And I just thought it was so beautiful.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I think, you know, in a lot of other places around the world, there is more endowment for the arts and for artists and stuff that is specific, it goes to the artist. I think we may undervalue it. There's also a perception that every artist is just raking it in and like, you know, everybody's got George Clooney and Julia Roberts money or something.
Yeah.
And so that perception, I mean, it makes me like, it's just, it makes me not awestruck, but I can't think of the word, dumbfounded, awestruck, whatever, that like, what is the percentage of Screen Actors Guild actors that actually earn insurance?
It's like small, right? It's like 2% or something.
Yeah, like I think it's under 5%.
Yeah.
That's the threshold is now $26,000.
Yeah.
If somebody said you're going to do a career and you're going to make 26 grand, everyone would be like, I'm out. Right? I haven't earned insurance since 2013. So like, that's not that high of a threshold.
That's wild.
You know? So like, there's that. I think if more people knew that, and that was during the strike, like everyone, you know, the perception across the country was like, screw them. They want more money. Everyone thinks it's like, no, the Screen Actors Guild is not made up. Those folks are the top 0.001%. Most of us are just middle-class folks that are trying to make a living. So you're battling some perception there too.
Yeah.
Manhattan Tower sounds amazing. And having that subsidy opens up the opportunity because of the instability, right? And I think that's what probably gets most folks is that it just is hard to live when you're an artist and if you're not making money, and you don't have any consistency.
It's impossible to focus on your art if you're trying to focus on surviving. Yeah,
100%.
That's wild. You haven't made insurance since 2013.
Yeah,
that's shocking to me. And
I mean, I've worked every year. Well, I don't want to dishearten you. I want to be realistic, and that's my story.
I quit acting right after this podcast.
Oh my God, I don't want it because I want to be encouraged, and I think that there's room for success for everyone. I truly believe that.
But I think, okay, to that point though, I think you are successful in my world. Isn't that fascinating? Back to comparison.
And I agree to a certain extent. But it doesn't take away some of the financial realities and some of the elements that exist in my life. So like, yes. And I don't want to give a perception. I want to be honest about the idea that like from the outside, it can look like great success. But from the inside, I think most people I know that are at my level are struggling. They are surviving, certainly not thriving.
Yeah.
And many people are barely surviving.
So when you book a gig like Fox NFL Sunday where there's no residuals, it airs once, you got less than 5 lines. At this point in your career, are you excited about that gig, or obviously you're like excited about the money, but like, are you like, yes, I get to do my craft? Are you like sitting there on set being very mindful of what you're doing and like very excited about the opportunity and all that at this point?
For sure.
Yeah, good.
It's a day on set is a blast.
I feel that way too.
But
so I find fun. When I book commercials, I go there, people are just like, oh, look at their phone, let me get out of here. And I'm like, why are you not soaking this in? Because this is such a rare opportunity.
Well, I think, I don't know. I'm always stoked to be there. You want to be a professional, and there's an element of show up, do your work, and then leave. Everyone's got to go do their thing. But like, I love it. And so, it's not all about the money. It's of course nice to be paid and then to be a part of something that is silly and fun. And they're almost always such a blast to do. Yeah. And they work really quick. Like it's not going to be arduous. You're not going to be there for 16 hours and like, it's great. So I feel like a day on set, I celebrate. I expect so much of myself. I'm not like, like I did it, like I'm not celebrating in a crazy way. I'm like, yes, work. I'm excited. I get to go work.
Can I challenge you on something? Like what is stopping you? Or maybe when was the last time you had like a day job or like an odd job?
Like a jobby job?
Like a consistent thing, yeah.
Well, here's another thing. Then this is
and you're saying you don't have any skills. I get it, but I think you do probably more so.
I'm sure I could do something else. I've been very fortunate. I've never had a 9-to-5 jobby job, or I have, but not many.
Jobby job.
Like, like,
4?
Yeah.
Daddy's going to jobby job.
Daddy's going to jobby job. Daddy, come back. We have Capri Suns. I don't know. Teaching now is probably my main thing. Like, but that's like it's freelance, right? Adjunct is freelance. Just like you get a class and if it goes, and then you get paid and blah, blah. I like that because it keeps me close to the art. Cause what I teach is writing or performance or whatever, improv. So like, that's cool. But like an actual, like what you would call like a 9-to-5, I have not had many of those, or an office job.
But so I guess where I was going is what's stopping you from doing that and getting a job that pays you $70,000 a year and then auditioning while you can?
Nothing per se.
Yeah.
Except I did take a couple years ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to put together a real CV. I'm going to get a LinkedIn profile. What can I actually do? And then I was like, I don't know. I could imagine I could go work. I was applying to jobs that I thought could use some of the skills that I have: writing, organizational, teaching, training, facilitation. But I could probably go sell something or probably go work, in an office job where I'm whatever. But I was like, what are my skills? And then I look at my CV and really don't have much. It's like, hey, do you want a guy who taught for a long time? And
yeah, but there's an entry level job.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you could, but I get it. It sucks, but
there's nothing stopping me. Short answer, nothing stopping.
Well, I guess my point was you were like, if I could get a job that pays $80K and quit acting, I would do it. But I'm like, why don't you just get a job that pays you $80K and still act?
That's fair.
It's where I
don't have an answer to
it. It was where my head went simplifying that, but
this is very good. I don't know. I probably could. It would be a bummer.
It is a bummer. I have a day job. It's a bummer.
I'm sorry.
But I mean, it affords me the ability to live and work and not work. It affords me the ability to live and act as much as I can. You know what I mean? So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here complaining not having to do some of those things that a lot of people have to do. But I do truly not know.
I don't think you're complaining.
I don't exactly know what my skills transfer to. I am a human that could be a part of a workforce. I'm not saying I can't do that, but it would be I really don't know. I should probably get a career advisor to be like, is there a place called Jobby Job Career Advice?
Yeah.
Because it would be like, here, this is what I've done. What can I do?
It's called Chat GPT. You just say, what can I do?
Dude, I'm going to drop my CV into Chat GPT later today. What jobs could I do? Or what's it called? Deep.
Oh yeah. Deep Seek.
Deep Seek.
Deep Seek. Did you, when that Cosby actor got outed, and by outed, I mean blasted for the Trader Joe's thing, did you have a deep empathy for him?
Of course.
Yeah. What was his name? I'm blanking on his name. Jeffrey.
I can't remember his last name.
Ross.
No.
Jeffrey Bean.
That's the roast guy.
Oh yeah.
Jeffrey something. Yeah. No, that was sad. Because again, going back to what I said earlier, the perception that this dude who filmed a sitcom as 9th or 10th on the call sheet 40 years ago is going to be set up for life is just unrealistic.
Yeah.
And then also saying what? So people who work at Trader Joe's are not doing it? Seems to me that people who work at Trader Joe's like their job a lot. So I don't get that. I think if people, my mom was a career waitress. I come from blue collar stock. I have no judgment of people and what they do at all. I'm extreme. My folks bust their ass so I could do something creative. I'm the first person in my immediate family to go to college. I'm extremely fortunate, and they bust their ass so I didn't have to. Right. So I find empathy for that just because also everybody on the internet's such a dick. They're such dicks, and they would never say it to your face, and people are so judgmental, and that's one of my least favorite things. It's an opportunity to connect with people and find your community, but it is also an opportunity to rip everybody apart for every single reason.
Yeah. This conversation got very serious, and I didn't intend for that. No, it's great. I think it's really good. To your point, you said you like getting clips that help you, and I think this is going to be very helpful to people. I didn't look at my notes once. Is there anything happy you want to talk about before we get to the last question?
Is this too sad?
No, it's not. It's really good, I think. I just don't want you to leave and have an existential crisis.
Oh, I'm not having an existential crisis. It's my truth. I'm relaying my truth at this moment.
I love that.
And I also live... I think we all contain multitudes, man. So I can still be happy. I can still go do the work. And we have elements and parts of our day. And like, I think about Jimmy Valvano talking about like a day that you laugh and a day that you cry. Like that is a good day. Like, and that's the kind of work I want to create. Like, as far as an artist and write and make is like humor with heart and sub that has depth and explores human vulnerability and, you know, represents that life is like incredibly complex.
Yeah.
So the complexities that exist in me, I would love to just be like, everything's great and happy-go-lucky. Like, that's who I am on the inside. But
Same.
I also am like a blue-collar philosopher that is always trying to find a way to get better and understand what's happening.
That's a great name of a podcast, Blue Collar Philosopher.
Yeah, I should do it. Well, I mean, that's what I think Chicago is to me, which is one of my favorite things. It is philosophy without pretension. And I think everybody possesses it.
Yeah.
Like everybody has a thought and a meaning. This of course exists everywhere, but that to me, when I think of Chicago, is like blue collar philosophy.
Do you go to therapy?
Yeah. Have to.
I agree, but the Midwest sensibility is like,
no, nobody in my family did. Yeah. I have, and then I got away from it, and then I realized like this isn't helping. You like say something happy, and then we're talking about therapy. Recently I learned I needed it again. I needed it again.
Well, I find when I go to therapy, it's literally what our conversation we just had. Like, what's the point? Do we have a goal? Are we happy?
Yeah.
Then everything's good.
I feel, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh? You know who Thich Nhat Hanh is?
God bless you.
How dare you? Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk.
Know what you're saying?
Thich Nhat Hanh, his name. He was a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. He's an author. He's amazing.
Okay.
He talks about the compassion of suffering and the catharsis of sharing. Like, so I think therapy is that. Like, some of the time it's like, I can't fix your shit. I'm paraphrasing. He does Thich Nhat Hanh. You're like, I can't fix your shit. I didn't say that. But like in my version,
that's the TikTok
he basically
version.
said the compassion of suffering is you tell me how you feel. And I can say, my dear, I'm sorry you are suffering, you know, and not hearing it and absorbing it and you saying it is part of your road to recovery. So like, I think that when we talk about stuff, because I think for a long time I was stoic and I absorb, which is a Midwestern thing, I think. Therapy allows you to get rid of that. I also think that performance is that for me. That like there is a catharsis in performing, the endorphins that come with it, but then the opportunity to be this emotional being that I probably am not emotionally indulgent normally or naturally.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think there's something too, like the idea of like when you say it out loud, like as a Catholic, you're brought up to believe, you know what I mean? Like there's something about
saying that there's repression in the Catholic
Well,
Church?
there's the shame, right? Like
for sure.
You put a flashlight on it. When you say it out loud, it's not your little horrible secret that you feel this way or that you're experiencing this or you did this thing. It's out there and it suddenly takes this huge weight off of it. And I tell my friends that all the time, like share whatever. Well, I try to tell my friends, so like share whatever you're upset about or feeling shameful of, put a light on it, because once you put a light on it, it's not as big and scary as it is when it's just tucked down in here.
100%. And I think that also gives you value to your relationships. And I think turning inward, I think that like I said this earlier or on social media recently, I said, life is not a competition. Life is a collaboration. And I think that there are a lot of people that view it as a competition and have probably gotten way further than I have. But that's not how I live. And I think that collaboration element is sometimes just sharing. Humanity is meant to be shared.
1000%.
And like, so there's something wonderful in even just this. There's a catharsis in talking about business, in talking about, there's others that struggle in this. And like a lot of your viewers and listeners are probably people who are at the same place and see themselves in you and in the people that sit here.
Yeah. Well, only Jason Statham sees himself in me, but everyone else. No, I agree. And that's why I think this episode's really good, actually.
Statham.
Thank you. The last question I have applies to that greatly, weirdly, is who took a chance on you? Like, who helped you get where you are and took a chance on you?
Wow. Let me think. I think taking a chance on someone is also makes me think of who believed in you or who saw something in you, right? So
are you improv monologing my question?
Why? I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah.
That makes me think of this. That makes me think of this.
Yeah.
I got a story.
Yeah. It's me, John Malkovich, and Joe Montana.
Taking a chance. That makes me think of
taking a chance. I'm sitting. Me and Malkovich are talking about Samuel Beckett. No, I've never met either of them. What was the question?
Who took a chance on you?
Well, I think about a lot of the people, like when I process that, so many. You know what I'm saying? Name them. Okay, name them.
All the people.
Everybody took a chance. No. Okay.
Sorry, I derailed it.
I think anybody that sort of gave you an opportunity takes a chance because nobody knows what the result's going to be.
Yeah.
But early on, I think about my professors in undergrad who they didn't necessarily give me jobs, but they created opportunity and for me to learn. So Dr. Laura Jones and Morris Burns are two professors. I maintain contact with Dr. Laura Jones, and I think about Beth Kligerman from the Second City. I think about Dave Gaudette from Comedy Sports, who gave me like my first gig in Chicago, who said, "We see something in you." And then I would say my former manager, Joel Zadak, took a chance on me, like called me in 2003. And I so naively said, like, I live in Chicago. I don't think I'm going to be in LA anytime soon. And he was like, you should, if you ever want a manager. And he was cool about it. And I was with him for a long time. So yeah, those folks are the people that come to mind.
That's great.
Yeah. My wife.
Big chance.
Yeah. Like she really did. Like she knew what she was signing up for this dummy. We met in the Chicago comedy community at IO. And
is she a performer?
She was. She isn't anymore. She's a social worker for the Department of Children and Family Services.
Good for her. Good for her.
She's doing real work. But yeah, so I think anybody that has given me, had some belief and created opportunity or said like, hey, we see you. That's always cool and affirming.
I love that. Well, Frank, this was a frank conversation.
Oh, frankly, my Frank, I don't give a Frank.
I know. I want to see that show weirdly now.
You should. It's fun.
When are you going to do it?
No
Put it up.
Of doing it in LA anytime soon.
Why not? Put it up at the Clubhouse.
I did it at the Lyric Hyperion and West Side, and it's just a lot of work, and there's a lot of work to produce it. So I'm putting it to bed right now. I also over ambitiously scheduled myself. It was my first semester of graduate school. And so I'm purposefully this spring saying I'll make room for jobs that pay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like creative passion projects, I'm going to put on hold for.
You don't think if you put it up at Dynasty, you could sell it out?
No. I drew pretty well at the places I did, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of work to perform it and prepare for it. Like, even though I wrote it, talking for 50 minutes by yourself is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well,
this was a pleasure. It was really good to talk to you. I think people are going to get a lot out of this. I think. Maybe
I don't know, man. I mean, I can't say with any certainty what they're going to get from it other than,
We'll know soon. You get a tail slate now.
Tail slate. Frank Caeti, willing to shave.
That was great.
MTV and the Channel E. A thing for celebrity.
Like in and then out and then in again.